Hi, today is August 8th, 2024, and here are my poems for the day. The first one is poem number 1225 for the year, Coincidence. In Central Park yesterday after the rain, I saw a squirrel gathering up wet brown grass instead of nuts. He looked at me with the grass hanging down the sides of his mouth, and I was like, "Squirrel, what the fuck are you doing? You look like Chester A. Arthur." And the squirrel looked at me like he didn't know what I was talking about, like he didn't even know who Chester A. Arthur was, which I thought was ridiculous because he had to know, because how could it be a coincidence? But then the squirrel was like, "I'm trying to make fun of the hipster who rode by on a unicycle yesterday. He had a top hat and a monocle and a mustache just like this." I had no choice but to believe the squirrel, and I went and got him a tiny top hat and a monocle, and the squirrel got up on his two back feet and said, "See, don't you want to punch me right in the face?" And I had to admit I did, and I had to admit I was wrong. The squirrel was not trying to look like Chester A. Arthur. It was a coincidence. Poem number 1226, The Language of the Toes, for Susan Beale. As requested, here are some additional notes on the language of the toes. First, toes don't have mouths or tongues or hands, so their language is not verbal, and it's not a sign language. It's most closely analogous to Morse code. Toes communicate through vibrations. The closer one toe is to another, the easier it is for the two of them to communicate. This is why the closest friendships are invariably between adjacent toes. With that said, it is not uncommon for the pinky toe to talk to the big toe, and vice versa. And although the toes on each foot consider themselves to be like a small family, the strongest bonds that a family of left foot toes can make is with the family on the other foot of the same person. And of course, conversations among toes from opposite feet go much easier when those 2 feet are within a foot or two of each other. This is yet another reason why manspreading is so ill-advised. It may also be worth noting that although toes don't have ears, they are generally able to discern the meaning of human language. Certainly toes understand us better than we understand them, and although I can't say why, I think we would all do well to try to understand the language of the toes. Poem number 1227, Not a Sinking Ship. The other day I ate at Blossom for possibly the last time. I had received an email last week telling me they are closing at the end of the month. And yesterday I went to Peace Food, and they had a sign on their door about how they are struggling too. And I was thinking about how it's weird that I'm about to move from this area, and one nearby vegan restaurant is going, and the other is threatened. I'm not blaming myself. I know it's the pandemic and supply chains and so on, but I have this feeling that I'm abandoning a sinking ship. But the Upper West Side is not sinking, and I'm sure I'll come to visit sometime, especially if Peace Food is still there. Poem number 1228, Wheatgrass Juice. At Peace Food, I found myself thinking, this is just the sort of place that would have served wheatgrass juice back in the day. And I was like, whatever happened to wheatgrass juice? Why isn't that a thing anymore? Did everybody find out it was bullshit? And I looked it up this morning, and yeah, it's bullshit. According to the American Cancer Society, available scientific evidence does not support the idea that wheatgrass or the wheatgrass diet can cure or prevent disease. It always seemed a little suspect to me, and I only had it very rarely. But if someone were to offer me a glass right now, I might be tempted. That's easy for me to say since no one is here, but I might be tempted. And the last poem of the day, poem number 1229. Oh, I don't know what to call it. Here is a dream I didn't have last night. Chester A. Arthur was riding a unicycle, juggling. He had a top hat and a monocle and was wearing a 3-piece suit, and I think he had a watch in his vest pocket, and he asked me if I had seen a certain squirrel, but I pretended I didn't hear the question, because sometimes I just don't want to get involved. All right, that's it. Uninvolved? Not involved? I don't know. I'll figure out the title. Anyway, thank you. I appreciate you.